All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, taping this on a Tuesday evening. A very cool background for the YouTube folks on youtube.com/Chase Thomas podcast, because we get some cool Wake merch. I'm a sucker for a good office space. Stan, how much did you put into this? Or how happy are you with where it stands right now?
Pretty good. I mean, I've got a mix. If you'll let me, I've got a mix of my Wake stuff. I'm a big Cowboy fan.
Oh, wow.
Got me a big fat head. It's in honor of Bill Bates, my buddy, and
not a Farragut Admiral helmet.
Yeah. I'm an old Farragut Admiral and an old Tennessee volunteer, and I know you're getting your grad degree there, and you and I've had a chance to catch up before we came on, and my folks are still there. Got a sister there, and so yeah, we go way back to East Tennessee. We hadn't been there in a while. I mean, we visit a lot, but I guess we left 92, went to Marshall in 92. So it's been about 30 plus years. So, but anyway, we're East Tennessee hillbillies.
Well, what's the biggest difference between Wake and that? Because, I mean, as of right now, it's still the smallest FBS school, right? With student population. So what's the biggest difference between East Tennessee and living in just a beautiful, secluded part of the country?
Yeah, no, Winston-Salem's a kind of a sleepy little town, but just in terms of driving into town, or it resembles Knoxville quite a bit, quite honestly, in a lot of ways. And we live out in a rural community in Advance, North Carolina, in Davie County, which kind of takes me back to Farragut. And back when I was in school in Farragut, it was pretty rural. It's not so much now.
Not anymore. Turkey Creek's taken that over. You got a Topgolf that just opened a few weeks ago. It's big time over there.
I was there not too long ago visiting my parents, who actually live west of Farragut now in Lenore City, but and saw the Topgolf. I was like, holy smokes. So I'll leave and come back, and there's a Topgolf or something else going in. But anyway, it's always great to get back. We get back 2 or 3 times a year and check out the old home place there.
Was it Duncan who said I think it was Tim Duncan back in the day. I remember reading something about him and like Winston-Salem about like it just sneaks up on you. I think is what basically the campus was. You're in the woods, and then boom, the university just pops up.
It's Wake's got a beautiful campus. It really does. And you mentioned Tim Duncan. That's a good marker for me. My first year at Wake was Tim Duncan's senior year.
Oh, wow.
So that was the 96-97 athletic year. So 27 years ago, this athletic year. So we've been here a long time. But it again, in a lot of ways resembles the East Tennessee area. So that's all good.
I've always been fascinated because, to do radio and to be a play-by-play guy, it's amazing. Like, one of the fundamental things that you need is something you can't just practice, which is you need a voice that resonates with a lot of people, where it sounds right. Like Brandon Ingram, who does radio for the Braves, unbelievable radio voice. Like he could not do anything else. That man was going to call baseball games on the radio. He didn't have a choice in the matter. And I think about folks, and Stan, you've got a voice that is memorable, and it's important with being the voice of the Demon Deacons. When you're out, if you're like at a Wendy's drive-through and and the Stan voice goes through the intercom, have you been heard by somebody and you're like, are you the radio? You sound familiar because you have a memorable voice.
That doesn't happen a lot, but you'll be out at a restaurant or wherever, and you'll hear someone say, I would know that voice anywhere. And usually it's a big fan, but it happens from time to time. When I was on television in Knoxville, that was when it was crazy. You couldn't go out anywhere without people coming up, and that's all part of it. That was all fun, and I loved that, getting to talk to people who appreciated what you did, at least, and watched, or at least said they watched. They were kind enough to say they did. Anyway, but that was such a long time ago. But yeah, that happens from time to time. It's kind of odd because in radio, they don't see you, right? It's just your voice, and they get comfortable with that. Your fan base does, and then once you've been at a place as long as I've been here now, they're comfortable with that. that's what they expect to hear. And if for whatever reason they don't hear it, then things start to go crazy. But yeah, that from time to time that certainly does happen.
How long did it take for you to get comfortable with being the play-by-play voice of the Demon Deacons? How long did it take for you to, like, really settle in and get used to just the
You know,
job itself?
that's a good question. Not that long because the
Hmm,
people here were so welcoming. I just wrote a letter to Coach Dave Odom, who was
hmm,
the basketball coach when I first got here. I'd come off a couple of ACC titles with Tim Duncan
mhm.
and crew, and it's his 80th birthday soon.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, the former SID at Wake Forest, John Justice, contacted a lot of folks and said, "Hey, we're trying to get some notes and cards and letters, things like that, collected, and wanted to ask you to write a note to Dave Odom." And one of the things that wrote to Dave in my letter to him was how welcoming he was to me. And I remember when I was trying to get the radio job here, I was at Marshall doing radio
Mhm,
with the Thundering Herd. Uh, and I went to a camp he was conducting in Lynchburg at Lynchburg College, a girls' camp in the summer. Took a tape and a resume, said, "Hey, I'm trying to get the job was open and at Wake Forest." And he took time out of his camp, sat down with me for about an hour.
mhm,
He said, "Look, this is an important position. It's one that I'm very interested in, and I want to make sure we get the right person." And but he sat with me and peppered me with questions, and we talked and just had a good time. And not long thereafter, I got the job. Now I'm not sure if Dave helped me with that or not, but he
mhm,
certainly didn't hurt me. But right out of the chute, Chase, he was just so friendly and warm and welcoming, and the whole community was that way, quite honestly.
hmm.
So it didn't take that long. And I'd been doing radio for a long time, about 12 years at Carson Newman, and then 4 at Marshall. So, it wasn't my first rodeo. I was confident enough in that part of it, but the newness of going to a new place, an ACC school,
Mhm.
you have moments of anxiety, I guess, like you would at any new job. But again, the folks here were so great, and they've been so warm to us and our family over these years. It's just been a great place to be. And again, you're 27 this year, so they hadn't run me out yet, and hopefully they won't do that anytime soon.
Did you have people ask you, like, what's gonna be your catchphrase? What's gonna be your sign off, for a Demon Deacon victory? What's gonna be your phrase? What was it gonna be? Did you get that a lot? Did you prepare for something like that? Did you think about it at all?
No,
Hmm,
not really. Growing up as a kid, listening to the great John Ward, and John
yeah,
had so many of those. But no, I mean, there have been a few things that have popped up, kind of, but I haven't really thought about it all that much. I just try to let the. It sounds cliche. It sounds like coach speak. Just kind of let the games come to you, and
hmm,
each game is different and has its different moments. And I've tried to over the years pay some homage to John, quite honestly,
mhm.
um, with a few things, but just kind of rolled along and been doing it for a long time. And maybe something very unique to me will pop up. I'm not done yet. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I like it. When you look at the game and with what actually happened with Wake over the weekend, Wake had a big contest against Clemson, and going in, just in the back of your mind, I mean, I'm sure this was something that you were probably thinking when Clemson goes up 14-0, is you're like, oh, here we go again. Like the last 4 years, here we go again. Big moment on ACC, on ABC at noon, and you're like, okay, I've seen this story before. You've seen this the last 4 years. You've called these games the last 4 years. What about the resolve kinda surprised you where it was like, "Oh, no, they're gonna punch back, and this is actually going to be a back and forth game, and the dam is not gonna be broken here, and that Wake is going to give Clemson the best game they've given them in a long time." Like, did you see that coming? Did you see that resolve coming after going down early?
Felt pretty good about the Deacs going into the game.
Hmm,
Both the Tigers and the Deacs were ranked, and it's only the third time that's ever happened.
mhm,
That they've played each other as ranked teams, and the last time it was 1950. So, but Wake's got good skill. They got a great quarterback,
Mhm.
and I just felt pretty good about it going into the game. And Wake did some good things against Clemson last year, but
Mhm.
just couldn't make enough plays defensively to stop the Tigers. So, Wake won 11 games last year, and they've been to 6 straight bowl games. Dave Clawson's built a really solid program here. But you're right. When the Tigers got up 14-0 in the first quarters, like, this is not a team that you want to play, from behind.
Mhm.
But the Deacs caught fire a little bit, had one of the better third quarters that I've seen in almost 30 years here.
Mhm.
Outscored the Tigers 21-7 in the third quarter. And then it was just kind of a race to the finish. We were talking about it with Coach Clawson today, as a matter of fact,
Mhm.
and he kind of put it the way I was thinking about it. It was like Clemson made one more play
Yeah.
in the second half in that double overtime, made one more play than Wake did and won by 6. So, disappointing to lose the game. But I think Wake proved to a lot of people across the country that, it's a pretty good team again this year. Um, but that's, I think, 14 in a row now that Clemson's won over Wake, and or rather, Clemson's been that nut
Mhm.
that Coach Clawson's not been able to crack, and awfully close. So you do the best you can and move on. You got Florida State this week, a team that's undefeated.
Yep.
So you battle the Noles and the Hurricane and see if you can get one this week.
Before we get into Florida State, who popped for you in this one? Like with your notes and your pregame, and where you thought this was going to be an area where Wake they're going to have the advantage against Clemson. This person or this position group or this area is going to have the upper hand that I'm going to watch for. Was there someone was there just a position group that popped in this game that you did not see coming?
I don't think that I didn't see coming. I think we Wake's got a really good receiver room. They've
Hmm.
got, as I mentioned earlier, really good skill. And I think if you take Wake's 2 wideouts and their slot receiver, those 3, I'm not sure in the league you can get a package that's any better. And
Hmm.
I felt that going into the game, and Coach Clawson talked about it today, that uh, just felt good about receivers against the secondary of Clemson. Clemson had
Hmm.
some folks down there, and Sam Hartman had 6 touchdown passes, a school
Yeah.
record.
Tied
So
ACC too, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was just one of those days where it was a home game, it was sellout, good weather, just felt Wake was going to play well. You always feel that Clemson's going to play well,
Yeah.
but just something about it. I felt good about it, good enough about it to think that, what, ball bounces Wake's way a couple times, they could win the game, and not quite, almost though.
Does it feel like there is something too? Because part of the intrigue too with that game every year now, especially with Wake and what Clawson's done with this program and just establishing this identity that I think Clark Lee's trying to do at Vanderbilt, and I think that was part of the reason that those two schools are kind of going to play and try and establish something there, is that we're not going to like we are a development program, and that's not a slight. That is like we are going to develop and we are going to invest in you and we are going to invest in guys that we get on early, and that like you might be a 3-star or whatever, but you might be overlooked, but we are going to maximize who you are in this program and we are going to get the best out of you. And then Clemson on the flip side is just that, like, yeah, they could have some injuries, but it's like they have 4-star, 5-star on 5-star. There is a complete different way and different mindset between these two programs, and both have been extremely successful in the last 4 years, the last 6 years really with Clawson, and it's just a complete different thing. Do you get the sense that Clawson and the Wake Forest team sees this game as just that, like, we're I mean, it feels like a movie almost, with the underdogs versus the haves and the have-nots in terms of just the star rankings, which a lot more goes in that they probably should, but like it does feel like there is to that, because you see the build up all week of like, oh, Clemson has this many like they've signed as many 4-stars in like one class that Wake Forest had in like 6 years or whatever. I forgot the exact stat, but I wonder, is that something that Wake is cognizant of the week of?
Well, I think you're right in that, and Dave Clawson has said very publicly and openly that this is a developmental program.
Hmm.
That we're going to have to recruit different types of kids than Clemson and North Carolina, some of the other places are in our league. And what we're going to have to do is take those kids and develop them,
Yep.
keep them here. Wake's going to win with over the course of time, depth and experience.
Mm.
And Wake will get a kid, and by the time he leaves here, he will have developed into a pretty good football player. And if we can get enough of those, if we can get enough of those, and they've really done the last 3-4 years a really good job in recruiting. And it's difficult at Wake Forest. I mean, number one, you got to find a guy that can get in school at Wake,
Mm.
and not only get in school but stay in school.
Mm.
And then he's got to be a guy that can compete at the highest level of the ACC. So that's the animal that Wake is after. And what Dave Clawson has done a pretty good job of, I think, a really good job of, is taking what some might view as limitations or negatives
Mm.
of Wake, small school and some of those types of things, academics, tough to, it's a tough grind here. But he's turned those around and makes those positive. He goes, into living rooms with moms and dads, say, look, if your son comes here, we're gonna make sure he's successful. He's going to graduate and think about his future with a Wake Forest degree in his hand. We're going to develop him as a football player. He's going to have a chance to play in big games with teams like Clemson, Florida State, and on, and bowl games, play for championships. Wake played for the ACC title last year. So that's the kind of program that Dave has built, and he's used some of those things that some might view as, again, turning some kids away, and they will, but those who kind of buy into it, moms and dads and the kids who do, then they're all in. And then he gets them in, and they coach him up. He's got a coaching staff that by and large has been here with him most of the time. A few have moved on. Mike Elko, now the head coach at Duke. He's Clark Lee, you mentioned at Vanderbilt, was here as a linebacker coach. But they coach him up. And
Yeah.
so, by the time they're fifth year seniors, and heck, with COVID and everything else, 6 years, 7 years, they've got good football players. We got a lot of kids in the NFL right now. And so going into the Clemson game, you asked Dave Clawson, they expected to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, is Clemson good? Absolutely. Is Clemson the benchmark in this league? Absolutely. But Wake felt, look, if we just play the kind of game we're capable of playing and don't make mistakes, we got a shot. And that's pretty much what they did.
Do you ever think what Riley Skinner would have looked like in this offense?
Would you say Riley Skinner?
Yeah, Riley Skinner in this offense. Have you ever thought about that? Because, I mean, he was a player, man. Riley Skinner back in the day, I tell people, I'm like, he was just must-see TV, and he was just the forgotten quarterback of that era where he was just perpetually underrated. And I just thought about him with Sam Hartman and just the amount of success that he has had in the scheme that you just kind of wonder, like, what would Riley Skinner have done with Dave Clawson in this offense?
Yeah, hey, look, Riley Skinner was just a winner. I don't care
Yeah.
what program he was in, what offense he was put in. He was, and his story is really incredible. He burst onto the scene in 2006. At the end of that, Wake Forest won the ACC championship, played in the Orange Bowl. And Riley Skinner at the beginning of fall camp that year was the third team quarterback, not second, third. And first game, he's, the backup quarterback is hurt. The starter gets hurt in the game. And Riley Skinner comes in, and the rest is history. I mean, he goes on to, lead Wake to an ACC title and the Orange Bowl and all that, and then had a great career for 3-4 more years. So, yeah, Skinner he was just one of those. And he was an afterthought as a recruit. I mean, Wake was down.
He was kind of Stetson Bennett before Stetson Bennett a little bit.
Wake was recruiting a kid on Riley's high school team, and the coach was pushing Riley, and Wake had one scholarship left. It was like, okay, we'll take him. And
it worked out.
Yeah, worked out pretty well for Riley and for Wake. No question about it.
What's the biggest difference between watching the two of them on the football field?
They're very similar. Real tough. I mean, just tough. Can get hit, get up, and just go back after it the next play. But maybe more than anything else, both of them really, really good in the locker room. Good leaders, lead by example, not just with their mouth. And for sure in Dave Clawson's offense, quarterback's got to be a tough player because he's going to take a lot of shots. He's going to be
Yep.
called to run the ball quite a bit because in the slow mesh and the RPO, so many of the decisions are made by the quarterback after the snap of the ball, and a lot of those decisions are to keep the ball and run with it. So anyway, Sam's just tough. He went through the blood clot deal. Most of the country knows about that. It was widely reported. And he had surgery, and a couple of weeks later, he's playing football. So
Yep.
That proves to me what kind of football player and leader he is. But Skinner and Hartman they look a lot alike, and they play a lot alike. And that's a good thing.
What is Sam Hartman better at this year than that you haven't seen yet? Is there any one thing you've noticed since he's been back that you're like, oh, he's worked on this, he's gotten better at this?
Oh, no, that's a good question. He's certainly strong. Throws a good deep ball, and I think maybe he's gotten better at the medium to short range throws. But he does well with all of them. But I don't know. He just a gamer. I mean, he rises up to meet the challenge, and again against great pressure all day long from Clemson. I mean, in the face of
Running
blitzes
for
and
his life
everything else,
constantly.
throws 6 touchdown passes and just keeps getting up. He got sacked a few times as well. Just kept getting up and running the offense and giving Wake a chance. And that's what you need your quarterback to do.
Do you think he's back for one final year next year?
It's a good question. He's got one more year of
Yeah.
eligibility. I don't know. I think he'd like to go on to the next level if he gets a shot to play in the NFL, and he'll get a shot. It's up to him whether he makes it or not. But I would think that this would be his time to move on. But you never know these days with.
I mean,
with
there's so many Griffiths in this
he's not
quarterback room
projected.
now.
Yeah, if the scouts give him feedback that, hey, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
one more year, you need one more year, maybe he'll come back. I don't know. That'd be certainly good news for Wake.
Well, not good news for the Griffiths family, who just keep populating this quarterback room.
Yeah,
Stan, like there's so many of them. Is this it? Is it just gonna be
I think
two?
he was it.
Okay.
And Mitch Griffiths, started the first game.
Yeah.
And was terrific. I mean, he was just terrific, and he's a whole lot like Sam. Not as big, but very mobile, strong arm.
He's gonna be running more. It seems like he's
Yes,
gonna.
his dad was his high school coach, and so he's got this, cerebral approach to the game, maybe that others might not have. But and then there's Baby Griffiths, who's a true freshman, who's I'm not sure when he's going to play if Mitch continues to develop. So we'll see.
Well, when you look at the Florida State game this weekend, Jordan Travis, I think the second highest graded quarterback in college football to this point, right behind Tanner Morgan at Minnesota, Hendon Hooker, friend of the program, Hendon Hooker at number 3, and then Stetson at number 4. But when you look at this matchup, I mean, I don't think going into the year we thought it was going to be just, ACC title implications in this one, but that's kind of where we're at. Like, Florida State has all this momentum. They're 4-0 for the first time in forever. And then you have Wake. I mean, easily could have been 4-0 coming off a big win against Clemson. Just right there, like you said, one play. They made one more play than Clemson did in that one. I am very, very curious to see how this goes. But when you look at the actual matchup and what Jordan Travis and this Florida State team present themselves to be against Wake, do you feel good? Do you think this should be a win, and this should be expected that Wake Forest should take care of business here on the road?
Oh, I don't know about should be. I've been doing this so long that I'm starting to. I think like a coach, but it is really, really hard to win a college football game. I don't care whom you play, where you play, what the team's records are. It's just hard to win a game. And when you go to a place like Florida State that, as you mentioned, on a roll now, 4-0, they've really turned it around. Wake got them pretty good in Winston, won last year. I think it was 35-14. But they were kind of trying to decide who they were, who their quarterback was going to be. And so they found him now, and they're 4-0. And have good skill. They've really used the portal well. I mean, they went out and got the missing pieces to kind of put together the kind of program that it's going to kind of be the foundation, I think, for years to come. They've got a huge offensive line, and Travis is just playing well. He can run really well. He's got a good strong arm, good leader, a lot like Sam Hartman. It's just a well-rounded program, good kicking game, and all that kind of good stuff. And they're in Tallahassee, so they're ranked. Wake's ranked. I think it's going to should be a good game. Wake has played pretty well away from Winston-Salem under Dave Clawson. So I just think it'll probably. I'd be surprised if it weren't another one of these games that go to the fourth quarter. And Wake will have a chance to win. Florida State should be right there as well. And but so I go play them, right? The late Skip Prosser used to say, "I don't know about you, football's not round, and when it hits the ground, it goes all over the place. So you never know what's going to happen in a football game." And we've seen some squirrely games down in Tallahassee over the years, but this should be a pretty good football game, I would think.
Well, last 2 weeks pretty squirrely. I mean, just Liberty surviving there, just coming up short.
Yeah, Liberty's got players now.
Yeah,
and people in the SEC know Hugh Freeze can coach.
Yep.
And Liberty's got a lot of good players. They really, really do. And I thought they were a better team than Vanderbilt. I think Clark is just kind of finding his way down at Vandy. They're going to build a good program there, I really think. Man, Liberty
it's just the problem with Clark. Like, it's not even a Clark thing. And I tell, look, I like picking on Vandy, especially in baseball. It's more of a baseball thing. Like, I'm going to pick on Vandy and that whole thing with Vitello and the Corbin feud and all that kind of stuff. That's going to be just part of our yearly lives now with Tennessee being a baseball school as well. It's just, I just don't know where the wins come. Like, with Tennessee on the rise, with Georgia being where they're at, with Florida, I think, going to bounce back. I mean, you can make progress. The difference with Wake and Vanderbilt is the ACC is a lot more open. And if you're a well-coached program and you got a good offense, you can rise in the ACC.
Yeah,
I just don't know where the wins come.
I get your point. I mean, you're in the SEC. I mean, it's, you talk about hard to win every week.
Yeah.
I get it. But, I think that Vanderbilt under Clark and some of the guys he's brought in there, they're going to be better, certainly better than they have been in years past, and be competitive. And when you're competitive, just like Coach Prosser was saying, the ball bounces your way every now and again. So, Vanderbilt's going to be in some games down the road with some of those heavyweights and win a few. I think he's too smart a guy. He's a good football guy, and he's going to surround himself with good coaches and good players. But week in and week out in the SEC is no bargain.
Well, I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule with Wake. I mean, you get Army at home, Boston College at home, who's having the season from hell. You go to Louisville, who is not having the season that anyone expected. I mean, NC State is going to be gigantic a little over a month from now. But outside of that, you look at the schedule, I think they're going to be favored in just about every game outside of NC State. And you're like, won 10 games last year. I think 10 is not out of this. I'm sure Clawson's like, I don't even want to touch that one. I'm not thinking 10 wins in ACC title game. But the schedule's there.
Dave won't go there. Like I say, 11-3 last year. Don't know if you can get 11 this year, but you
can
right.
definitely get 10.
Wake's going to have a chance to win some games, but at the same time, Wake's going to have a chance to lose those games as well. So you got to go out every week and get it done. There's more coach speak for you.
There you go.
But that's where Wake's program is right now. They're going to have a chance to win, and that's been kind of Wake's deal over the history of the program. Not able to sustain consistency, and I think that's where Dave Clawson really has settled in. With his Deacs right now, that they're favored to win more times than not now. So tip of the cap to him and what he's built here.
Last thing we'll go. Your favorite game in your Wake tenure that you've called is what?
Wow. Well, my early days here, some of the weeks, I just wondered, is Wake going to ever be able to have a chance to play for a championship? And that 2006 year when Wake came out of nowhere. I mean, in
Mhm.
August, the media picked Wake to finish last, and Wake won the ACC title
Mhm.
that year and played in the Orange Bowl, which was, I mean, here we are getting ready to kick off the Orange Bowl, and Arnold Palmer's down on the field representing Wake Forest.
Mhm.
Muhammad Ali is representing Louisville, and the place was packed. It was a great night, and just had a moment to kind of sit back and say, "Wow, uh, you know, Wake actually did make it, right?"
Mhm.
So the ACC title game was pretty cool
Mhm.
back in 2006, but the Orange Bowl. Even though Wake didn't win the game, it was just a spectacle. I think there were some estimates of about 45,000 Wake Forest fans there. Wake
Wow.
Stadium doesn't hold
Yeah.
45,000. So it was, a monumental moment for Wake Forest in the history of its football program, and it was one of those games that I will never forget. Um, and there have been some memorable ones here, a lot of fun ones, some wins over Clemson, some wins over Florida State, and all those types
Mhm.
of schools. So, but 2006 was a pretty special year. Last year against Pittsburgh, the ACC title game was anytime you play for a championship, it's fun, right?
Mhm.
But to actually win it like the Deacons did in '06, Carolina hadn't done it, NC State hadn't done it, Duke hadn't done it. Wake's the last Carolina school to win an ACC title in football. So the Deacs hold that over the other Big Four schools in the state, and they should. That's part of it.
I mean, it's been a great year for North Carolina football, though. App
Oh man,
State, you go up and down the list. I mean,
yeah.
it's a good time to be a North Carolina football fan.
Mike Elko's got, he was,
Yeah.
the defensive coordinator under Dave Clawson here at Wake Forest for a while. He's the head coach at Duke now, and
Mhm.
he's got the Devils turned around. NC State's a really, really good team. Of course, we know what Matt Brown's done at North Carolina. So yeah, the Tar Heel State's loaded with football now, and not just ACC schools too.
Yep.
Appalachian up the road, even though it lost last week, but certainly has had some headlines this year and others as well. So it's pretty good football around here.
Yeah, Adam had a friend of the pod, Adam Witten had a good, call on the what are they called? Not Hail Mary 2, it was something like that, though. What did they call it?
Miracle on the Mountain,
Miracle on the Mountain, yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was Miracle on the Mountain 2. For some reason, I think
dude.
it happened before, I don't know, I don't remember the first time it happened, but it was number 2.
Some crazy game with Michigan or something. Of course,
Well, I don't know if that was a Miracle on the Mountain because I wasn't at
it
home,
wasn't on the
so
mountain. That was at Michigan,
yeah.
but that was certainly was a miracle. Maybe miracle. I don't know.
It's so weird when the stuff you remember, like, I remember exactly where I was when I heard that Michigan lost to, App State on the blocked field goal, where I'm coming back from a high school football tournament, Corky Kell Classic. They do it every year in Atlanta, at the Georgia Dome, which is no longer there, and riding back with my dad after the game, and we just turn on the radio, and just this is before smartphones and all that, and you're just, like, losing your mind. Like, "No way did App State beat Michigan." It was just, I will never forget, like, just the confusion and all of that in the car.
I don't remember where I was. I
Mm,
remember the shockwave,
mhm,
across college football when that happened, and but that's why you play every game,
yep,
and that's what makes college football such a great sport. Those things happen, not every week, but you never know what you're going to see. So that's why you tee it up and go.
and that's why you book Akron and you give Army the boot, because Tennessee wanted no part of that before Florida weekend, and who can blame 'em? You guys get them, up close, which last year was an insanely fun game. Like, Army, man, Jeff Monken is so good at his job,
Wake
and
had to score 70 plus just to win the game. Yeah, it
oh my
was
goodness.
it was crazy. And so yeah, Army comes into town next week, and they're doing things a little bit different now, but
Mhm.
still, when you play the service academies, you better buckle it
It's a
up.
different week of practice. Like, you're
It,
just
it's tough.
it's
Yeah,
hard.
yeah.
Stan, what, can the good folks check out from you this week? How do they support the Wake Forest program and everything that you've got going on with Learfield and everything else?
Well, we just it's a privilege to do what we do, and thanks to technology, people can listen to us anywhere in the world, on a Wake Forest Game Day app or the Varsity app,
Mhm.
godeeks.com. And the craziest thing, basketball game a couple of years ago, I got a tweet that I looked at during a commercial break, and the guy was listening to us in Rwanda.
Huh.
So, things have changed these last 30 years in the ways that people can consume what we do. And it's that way, that's how I listen to Tennessee games. I listen on
Mhm.
the app, listen to Bob Kessling and that crew all the time, and the Vol Network. And it's, it's an amazing opportunity that all fans of college sports have. So we just appreciate people listening, and hope they continue to do so and enjoy what we do. And for those Wake fans around the world, I'll, say go Deeks, and let's see if we can get those Seminoles this week.
There you go. Stan, thank you so much for making the time. We'll have to check back in again soon.
Would love to, Chase. Thank you.